Who's taking notes?
I'm happy to do it.
Oh, great. Okay, thanks, Meg. So it's
7:36.
7:36, and are we have enough here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So let's just do roll call. Helene Lieb here.
Tom Baker here.
Mike?
Mike, you're muted. You're muted, Mike.
Mike Dick here.
Okay, Meg?
Meg Wheeler here.
Fran?
Fran Collins here.
Robert? Rob?
Rob Hillman.
Tom?
Tom Baker, present.
And Lee?
Big Jenkins.
Okay, we're all here. Let's start, Chris.
Okay. So the progress on the town meeting has been coming along well.
The first thing we want to do is approve the minutes of the last meeting. Meg, you wrote them up, right?
Well, yeah, but I think we're doing that later on the agenda.
Okay, we'll do that later. Make sure no problem. Yeah, go on, Chris.
So we are so there's been a yesterday was Wednesday, right? Yesterday there was an on-site training video done with Carol St. Pierre, and I think Dan was down there, and some other staff, and they filmed how it will work, how you drive in, how you check in, and all that. So that'll be produced and ready for next week, so people will be able to watch it and see it in advance. We'll have a call next week, Helene, with the usual group in advance of town meeting, just to talk about the logistics and the warrant and all.
What time is the call?
We haven't set up a time yet. Was going to do something later in the week, probably.
Okay, can I tell you when I'm
next week?
And Chris, can Mary and I be on that, since I think we're the informal?
Yeah, we may do something. We may do a call earlier in the week, Meg, just to loop on logistics.
Okay.
So I think we'll set up an early week call, because I have to loop you both in for.
Okay.
And can I just tell you when I'm free?
Sure, go ahead.
The best time is like 2 to 5, but I need to know in advance. Because I'm going to be in Vermont, but I'm going to be working and seeing my patients virtually in Vermont.
So you'll be available electronically, but you'll be physically in Vermont next week.
Yes, 2 to 5 is best for me.
Okay.
Okay.
And then Meg, I'll shoot some. I'll try to wrap something up early in the week, just talk about the logistics, because we're so.
Because at 5 o'clock I have to start seeing patients again, and I'll be done by 1:32, 2 o'clock. Okay.
Okay. I'll try. I think Dan's working from home now too, so it's a lot easier to get people together now.
Awesome.
So the logistics have come along around well. Some articles are starting to fall off the warrant. FEMA has actually rescinded its map.
I read about that too.
I know, after all this, right? Unfortunately, instead of finding a middle ground where the people who've already adopted could hold it and they could just extend the deadline, what they've done is they've ripped away the approvals from all the people who already approved it. So they're going to have to now go through the whole process all over again, the people who are approved it. So they actually made it work. So we benefit a little in the sense that at least we don't have to worry, even if town meeting couldn't happen next week, we'd still be okay.
So we weren't approved yet. Is that correct, Chris?
I'm sorry?
We weren't approved yet.
No. So next Tuesday, on the 16th, we would have done this at town meeting. But
Right, exactly.
and then there's a couple of other articles that may end up falling off as well, that could be pushed off to the fall. So, and I've talked to Dan. There's a number of very simple, almost housekeeping ones that should be fairly quick, and they usually are. So I think we'll be okay, but we'll talk more about that at the end of next week. At the beginning, we'll talk about the logistics, and we'll kind of finalize if there's any articles that should fall off, because the goal is to keep this as simple as possible. Bathrooms, there will be bathrooms on site. I think we're trying to get them as nice as possible. The on-site ones at the Music Circus are still, they have not been opened, and they won't be opened, but we're trying to get some nice temporary bathrooms. I don't know if there'll be the full, Beverly Hills temporary ones that are nicer than the ones in a lot of people's homes, but at least definitely mine. But Glenn is working on logistics, so we have funding for it. I told them we don't want to spend more on the bathrooms than the whole rest of town meeting. So, so there'll be bathrooms on site, and there's a parking plan that's been developed and check-in plans. So I think it's going along pretty smoothly on that end, which is good. And again, I said the training video was produced yesterday, so hopefully then.
Chris, how are we keeping those bathrooms, like carefully safety? How are we doing that?
I'm going to find out more about that, Helene. The first step was to make sure that we're going to be on site, and that I just found out today. So
Okay, thank you.
look into that. And there will be some folks, some CERT team members that'll, there'll be microphones stationed around the facility, and there'll be people people don't normally touch them anyway. You usually just stand and talk into them, but there'll be some folks there to help clean them as necessary. So. And then I'm starting some of the education. I'm going to go on with Don later. We're going to film a segment about the budget and some of the finance articles. I'm going to try to get Sam on to talk about the capital budget articles. So we usually do kind of a town meeting pre-show to go over what's going on. And we might try to set something up for next week if I can get a clear date on a calendar and just open things up to the public. If people just want to talk about the warrant, kind of have a warrant show. So I just don't have a clear date on that yet. So it's hard. A lot of committees are meeting again, so it's hard to get. It's hard to get a good Zoom platform set up here. So,
Hey, Chris, I'm not hearing everything you're saying. Maybe you can bring your microphone closer to you, but I missed maybe half of what you just said. So are you, if you could just repeat what you just said the last minute or so.
okay.
You got
I remember what I was covering there. What were we talking about?
You were talking about warrant articles.
Oh,
and,
yeah, yes. So,
some coming off, and then you started talking about the budget articles, I think. But
yeah. So what I'm going to be doing over the next few days and early next week is our normal education videos about the warrant, what's on the warrant.
I see. Okay.
And I'm going to try to do some filming with Don after this meeting. We're going to do a Zoom interview, he and I, and go through some of the budget articles. The website pages on the town's website are being prepped up now, so there'll be information on all the various articles, which we usually put up. I have one more piece to put into the budget document, and that'll all be done because I had to rewrite the whole intro because obviously everything changed a little bit. So that'll be together. So people will have a lot of information. Again, the goal is to get people as educated as possible going into town meeting. So that's where we are on that piece. Tom?
Tom has a question. Tom? I can't hear you, Tom.
You're muted.
Okay.
Will there still be remote access?
You'll be able to see it, yes.
Okay.
The goal is to have it on Zoom,
Oh, good.
Facebook Live, and we also hope to have it on 143 TV. That's the plan. Just like a meeting.
Perfect. And then so let's say someone is watching it on 143 TV and it's say an hour into it and there's something they want to vote on. Will they be able to go in and get late check-in?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then how many lanes will there be for check-in?
I think they're setting up. I think they're going to be able to check in as many as 6 cars at a time.
Okay.
That's the amount of poll pads and all electronic.
Okay.
What'll happen is people will drive in. They'll have to just show some ID or at least say their name, validate it against the voter list. And if there's multiple people in the car, and there'll be a physical packet because there'll be a motion still. There'll be electronic. If people just want to have it electronically, that'll be fine. And then there'll be a voting card of some kind. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do yet. Some kind of fluorescent type piece of paper. That's what Dan wanted to just see things visually. We also have 3 light towers that have been added to the lights that are already there in case it gets dark, but we're going to start a little early. So we should have light for 2.5, 3 hours. Hopefully we won't have to go anywhere near that, but we'll see.
I'm sorry, and there will be electronic voting within the premises?
No, you'll be physical, you'll physically hold up. And there will be counters. So if anything actually gets to a hand count, there'll be people who actually will literally count people.
Okay.
They're done. If it's a majority vote, normally it'd be like a voice vote on the floor of town meeting, and Dan would just call it by what he sees or hears.
Okay.
Same thing with visually, because it just became too, I think, challenging to hear it. And we talked about flashing people's lights, but everyone's headlights work differently. And there might be 2 different people in the car, right? Husband and wife who don't agree, and one votes yes and one votes
Not in this household.
yeah.
Never. No.
I I remember Martha Yesterby talking to me about when her husband was the chair of the finance committee and she was on the selectmen, how they sparred on multiple occasions at town meetings. So
And so then it's broadcast via AM, is that right?
I think it's not an FM band, Tom. I'm not sure, but I think it's an FM.
Oh, nice. And so the cars, are they allowed to idle then, or do you have to just?
I think there's going to be enough spacing. People are going to be kind of. I have a. And I can show you the parking plan if I can pull it up, but cars are going to be kind of spaced, kind of like that.
Yeah.
Well, they won't be blocking it, and there'll be rows between them.
Mm-hmm.
Good, and not poison your neighbor. You know.
Okay.
You know, the state doesn't allow you to idle your car more than 3 or 4 minutes. So
Yeah, but if people have to, we're going to have the area sprayed by mosquito control the day before. Plymouth County's going to come down and just spray the woods. It's
put long sleeves and a hat.
Yeah, so we're hoping that it's hard to predict the weather. Obviously, it got really steamy this week, but we've been kind of on the up and down. Later in the day, there's usually a decent breeze, and things should be okay in most of June. And even if it rained, we'd probably be okay.
I have a question, if Tom's done.
Yes, Tom, are you done?
My last question is will there be remote access for the advisory board as well, or the select board?
Well,
Do we have to
we were kind of talking about that a little bit tonight.
Okay.
So typically, in a town meeting, the selectmen and advisory set up in front, the whole committees. It's probably not the best idea to try to do that, but we want everyone to be there, obviously, and participate. So we probably recommend that, I think that maybe the chair and the vice chair are up front, or unless there's someone else who's designated to speak for each board, just to be up there. And I have to be up there because I usually present these. And then everyone is obviously able to speak. If there's people who are going to speak on a particular article, you can just tee up to speak.
Is the whole board of selectmen going to be there, all 5 of them?
Yeah, I believe they'll all be there, but they won't be sitting up front. They're going to talk about that next Tuesday, but I think it'll be the same as just to have maybe the chair and the vice chair up front.
Okay, just the chair.
However you want to do it. I mean, because it would be hard to socially distance 14 people on the stage. There's going to be a seating area, by the way, a safe socially distanced seating area right in front of the stage that'll be able to accommodate up to 100 people. So if for whatever reason people want to be outside with masks and all, you can do that.
Mike.
Colleen, I think Mike has his hand up.
Mike, just before Mike goes, I was a little concerned about that seating area. Are we going to have some security there so people just don't they obey the mask, so those of us who are up in front are safe? Yeah,
there's going to be a separation between the stage, well more than 6 feet separation between the stage and the seats. But yeah, there'll be multiple police and parking folks and all around the facility. Everyone who's outside is going to need to wear, whereas a seating area up on stage will need to wear a mask. You could probably take it off to speak at a microphone simply because it's probably easier to hear. But
Mike, you have a question?
Yeah, and I would just ask Colleen that if we have a hand raised, that you recognize us. You did take the first many minutes of asking questions, and you continue to sort of jump in. We all have questions, so I would just appreciate it if you do recognize someone, allow them to ask their questions.
Correct. I will, but sometimes I'm going to say something first because I'm chair. Okay.
Well, that's why I'm asking, just as a courtesy.
Yeah, but I very seldom speak. Most of the time I just field your questions. Mike, you have a question.
Yeah. Chris, is there any doubt that delaying this town meeting would be beneficial? The key driver of the 16th of June was the FEMA question. That's no longer an issue. I think there may well be people who are nervous about going to a large gathering, even though safeguards have been thought about, but it's not proven. It just seems that delaying a week or two would be prudent and would be considerate of the residents. And so I would ask that there be a discussion on changing the date to make it a safer meeting and hopefully a better attended meeting.
Is there any response from anybody else about Mike's comment?
Well, I asked Chris that question. I didn't, and I hope we do have discussion, Helene. But
Excuse
I'm
me,
hoping
Mike,
that Chris
Mike,
can give an
Mike.
answer.
Yes, Mike, I asked
Am
anybody.
I out of order, Helene?
Yes, you are out of order, okay? If anybody, including Chris, wants to respond, please raise your hand. Chris, do you want to respond?
The moderator at this time has the power under the statutes to delay the meeting if there's a public health, if he considers there to be a sufficient public health challenge, and he can do that in consultation with the Board of Selectmen. The real deadline we've been working off is June 30th. That's the end of the fiscal year.
Great, right.
So the goal is to have this wrapped up before then as possible. Now, the other challenge is that because of the way we're doing this, there's a fair amount of logistics that go into this, right? We get the contract with the company, actually multiple companies, because we have a separate.
I appreciate all of that, Chris, but it all comes down to the public health question.
Right.
And I would like to ask that this question be raised, discussed, rather than not raised and discussed. Whether I would need to bring it to the select board as an agenda topic, or whether you in your role could just bring it to them.
Mm-hmm.
I just want your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, Mike. I'm clearly public health is critical. It's what we've revolved around for the last 3 months, and the reason that this alternative option was put into place in the first place because there was concerns about getting folks together in any group, particularly indoors. I know that there's several other towns that over the next 2 weeks are going to try to pull off both indoor meetings in large facilities. Hull was scheduled to meet this past Monday. They've pushed it back to next Saturday, the 13th, on their football field. And there's a couple of other communities in the next 2 weeks that are going to try to pull off meetings in outdoor facilities, like mostly football stadiums, either at the regional school they're part of or at their own high school. And we're going to see, obviously, how all those pull off. I also shared the drive-in theater style stuff we're doing with Marshfield because they have the Marshfield Fairgrounds. So they're exploring whether or not this might make more sense to try to pull something off in their gym or auditorium. And they have a beautiful high school, but there's only so much social distance you can do in a plus. So my point is, so yes, this is going to be on the agenda for next Tuesday, Mike. The whole town meeting and where we are and how safe we are. And by the way, you're free to come and speak as a citizen.
Is there time to change the date as of next Tuesday's select board meeting?
Yeah, look, if the moderator, at this point, it's in the hands of the moderator because the warrant's been published and it'll be in people's hands hopefully this weekend. It's now in the hands of the moderator. So Dan Evans will make the call at this point. So it's now the way the law works. He's now the central player. And if he wants to delay the meeting because of public health concerns, he has the ability to do that. Or again, weather or whatever, there's a series of things that he can do that for. If necessary. And again, another alternative that we've talked about, and it's one of the things that have to be decided as we go into the meeting is, should this be stripped down to its most basics and just do maybe 4 or 5 articles that have to be done.
Correct.
And then adjourn others to the fall. So the warrant does have 27 items on it. That said, some of them are, there's a couple of articles that are, like the reports of committees, there are none. There's no bills of prior years, so there's really, those fall off right away. And there's several now the FEMA one's coming off. But there's others that are arguably, that could arguably be delayed. And I was talking with the chairman of Selectmen just this morning about that topic. And it'll be something that we talk about next Tuesday, right up until, I'd say, the night of the meeting. Because, nobody, you don't want to have people, as unique and fun as unique as it might be, you don't want to have people stuck in their cars for any length of time either, right? It's not, that wouldn't be fun, even if there's bathrooms and stuff. And it's not, one of the greatest parts about town meeting is that people have this ability to robustly interact with each other, right?
Absolutely.
And it's going to be hard to do that. I mean, it will work, but it won't be the same.
Correct.
And so, which is the reason that the zoning articles and the water rate study have been pushed off to the fall, because those really deserve a public debate in a way that you couldn't have right now. So
Debate on town floor.
you're raising very legitimate questions, Mike, that are definitely being asked consistently. And I think, and they will be continued to be asked next Tuesday, and I think right up through 2 Tuesdays from now, right into the evening of town meeting.
Right.
So we just lost somebody.
Yeah. Tom, question.
Yeah, the creativity that's gone into this is amazing. And so I am duly impressed by everything that you've put together logistically. I think we've still defined a town meeting arbitrarily as having to gather in one place. And my perception or my take on the regulations as they're written is we could still hold a virtual town meeting. We could go so far as to confirm that anyone who is participating virtually has an IP address within the 02025 area code. And that, in my mind, I interpret that to be as still holding it within the town. And it's no different than listening to it via Facebook, AM radio, FM radio, voting with a placard. So is there a risk if we were to go that approach that someone could come back and contest the results if they wanted to, saying, but it wasn't conducted properly?
So I'm not town council. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I said I don't want to sit here as town council.
Okay.
I will tell you that the state is still debating,
Right.
and it's been moved along, about allowing representative town meetings to do just that, right, with a very elaborate procedure.
Representative, but not.
But it would be, so they are discussing, and there's a very elaborate checklist of things that have to be done to make it work, including town meeting itself has to validate that it's comfortable meeting that way the night that they meet. So if there's a vote at 10, and again, I don't think it's gone to the governor yet.
I don't think it has. Can we put everything on the ballot then? Is that another solution where we're just like, let's not vote on anything, let's put it all on the town ballot?
Yeah, the system of government doesn't allow that, unfortunately. Believe me, if there were alternatives like that would be legal and not subject all of this.
Yeah. Okay.
Because so by the way, you're asking excellent questions.
And I'll end it here. I share Mike's concern. I think we're creating an environment that there is a health risk, of course. I think there's, I think we're excluding people, and if for whatever reason you've got a health condition, age condition that you can't sit for hours in a cramped space, I think that's a bit exclusionary, and I don't think that really fits the spirit of an open town meeting. I feel like this definitely excludes more than includes, and so I just worry. I feel like this is just kind of out of the spirit, but I think that also the spirit is dated and broken anyway. So I guess I've said my piece, and I want to be very mindful of the health concerns that I think Mike shared as well, and make sure that that's thought through, and maybe even that there's feedback from various groups and contingencies within town that have said, hey, look, I'm not going. And if there's enough groups like that, maybe we've got to get creative or push the liability risk tolerance for doing something online that could come back to bite us, but I think would be more inclusive. So that's all I have.
Meg?
I want to echo what Tom said, and you know, Chris, I really do applaud you. I'm so impressed by the plans for this, and I love the creativity. And I think this does go beyond just the initial health risk. I think, you know, we've seen this with the Board of Selectmen meetings. I've talked to so many people who have never seen a Board of Selectmen meeting before, and they're watching them on Facebook. So I think this, you know, as someone who, you know, as the mom of a little kid, I said this at the Board of Selectmen meeting probably a month ago. Thank you for doing this, because this will be the first town meeting that my husband and I can both attend, because we don't have to pay $100+ to get a babysitter to be able to both go. So I think this is opening up the ability for more people in town to participate. But I echo what Tom says, that, you know, I think it needs to go further. And I'm hopeful that by doing this, which is very much breaking the mold, that this will make people more comfortable down the road to perhaps expand how we do town meeting, to make it even more inclusive and more accessible. So I appreciate all of the efforts that have gone in so far, and I hope that this continues to be a conversation.
Fran?
Cohasset has had open town meetings a lot longer than I've been around here. I've been here coming up on 79 years. It's never a place where it's comfortable to sit down. So Tom, I appreciate you. People that don't like to sit still for a long period of time, like me, I'm a fidget. But the fact of the matter is that with a town meeting like we have proposed now, regardless of the health issues, we don't have any controversial articles on this. So we would anticipate a very small turnout because people just don't come. 100, I think it's tragic that we have 100-person quorum. It constitutes a town meeting, so that dictates how we're going to spend our money for the next year. It's tragic, but that's how it is. So the fact is that we're going to have one. I think the main issue isn't a matter of the fact that it needs to be done virtually, it needs to be done whatever. The fact of the matter is it needs to be done. And it's not very controversial. And 100 people show up, we can get it done. And the idea of social distancing and making sure you know, that the bathrooms are clean and that the you know, everybody stays where they are, wears their masks. This is a serious issue that's facing us right now. But to have a monumental change in how town meeting is conducted and run, this isn't the time or the place to have that discussion. I think what Mike raised was the issue of the health factor of it is a very, very important one, and it's serious. I mean, our church opened up week before last. Gail and I, we both are church attenders. We like to go to church, and we're not going. We just, at our age, we can't afford to take the chance of being exposed, even with all of the precautions being taken. So, but the idea that we're going to not allow anybody to come to town meeting because it's not comfortable, you know, that's just too bad. That's just how it is. But I think Mike's comment about the health, that is a very valid and serious issue that needs to be raised. And hopefully maybe they'll think about it next week at the selectmen's meeting. But there's my take on the town meetings.
Any more comments? Rob?
I had about 5 minutes of catastrophic internet failure, so I missed a chunk of the conversation. Rather than jumping in with my thoughts on what I think you just discussed, is there presently a question or a motion?
Oh,
Fine, that's all I have.
I just wanted to add something. Oh, first, Tom, you talk, and then I'll just add something.
Is what happens if we don't achieve quorum?
That's a good question. So there is another piece of legislation that's kicking around that allows you to go low to below quorum to 10% of quorum. I don't know that the selectmen are interested in pursuing that or the moderator, because I think though I believe that bill that has not passed either, by the way, but it's pending. If you don't make quorum, you don't have a meeting. You can't vote. So if you don't have 100 registered voters present, you don't have quorum.
I think to Fran's point, I think we can say these aren't controversial. That's not for us to decide, but let's assume they're not controversial. And we don't get quorum. What do we do? What's the contingency for approving the budget? Can the select board at the meeting decide to enact that 10% and then vote on the budget?
I don't. I think it's a little more complicated than that. Again, part of this is that the state, the versions keep flipping back and forth between the House and Senate. They keep tweaking,
Right.
And it's not something that we're hoping to have to go down that path, right? Because as challenging it is to try to pull this off in this style.
Yeah.
To somehow say that 10 people, as Fran was pointing out, 100 is one thing. It's small. 10 would be even less. And there are some towns that don't have quorum requirements at all, which I don't know how you do that. But
Yeah.
it has no quorum requirement. You could have 2 people in the room. You could vote the entire budget. I don't know how you do that. But I will say, just looking ahead, there will be another town meeting sometime later in the season, and another one a year from now. And these questions aren't going away. That you're raising, they're not. In fact, if anything, this has opened up, I think, a lot of people's eyes to the practicality and the benefits of having at least a vehicle like this to supplement a meeting, if not to replace it. Because nothing beats face-to-face contact, quite frankly. That said, whether it's you can't get babysitters or you can't physically get out, or there's 1,000 reasons, right? In expanding the franchise is a great public good, and so these questions aren't going away. So I would suggest even if things aren't going to be able to happen today, that doesn't mean they can't happen tomorrow or down the road. Because again, I think this, as this platform has shown us, just from having more people have access to meetings and to be able to we didn't have the Facebook Live ability, and now it pushed us to actually come up with a way to make this happen. And Zoom happened to have a link, right? So I don't think we should stop it. I think we should continue to do Facebook Live regardless. Even if we can come back into regular, when we can come back into regular meetings, yeah. It does. And your points, Tom and Meg and others are extremely important. I will say that there is a degree, there's a very large degree to which we're subject to what the state says we can do.
Right.
Push the envelope, right? But you can also, if you push the envelope too much, the Attorney General says whatever everything you did is invalid. That's I think there's clearly a recognition that things have changed, and that we need to continue to if you're going to allow expand the franchise. And by the way, we're going to talk about that next on the town election, expanding the franchise and making it safe for people to vote. You don't want people to get sick exercising their franchise, right? Like, we don't want to be Wisconsin. So, is there anything else from me on the town meeting? I just
want to clarify. Sorry, my frustration that you probably clearly hear is totally directed at our state representatives in Senate. It has nothing to do with you or the town.
No, I understand.
I think they are totally incompetent and slow acting, and they're doing the state a disservice, for the record, and we can include that in the minutes. Attributed to me. That's all I have.
Rob had something to say, and then we'll go back to Meg. Rob?
I'm good. Never mind.
Okay, Meg?
I just, for a point of clarification, Chris, for the minutes, I think you had said there's legislation pending to reduce to 10%. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a quorum reduction that's been floating around that I believe that the last one I saw reduces it to 10%. But as a whole procedure, the moderator has to consult with the selectmen and the whole thing.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Question, if no one else, I just wanted to ask Chris. Chris, when they do the quorum, the people who are on Facebook and Zoom, they count?
No, they have to be, you still have to be physically present.
Okay.
You can watch the meeting. And again, as Tom said, if you see something, and by the way, this happens now because it's been broadcast on 143 for years. So somebody sees when their article comes up, they drive up, they come in, right? Or you come in for the article and you head out when you leave. The goal is to have it not just on 143, but also to be simulcast on Zoom and Facebook this time as well.
Right, and what's holding us back from doing it virtually is the legislature hasn't had any vote on that.
Yes, there's no legal platform for us to do that right now.
And in terms of the health, what Mike has been saying is really true. I've been in contact with some microbiologists and people who are experts in the field of the aerosol effect. I have connections at Harvard, and were very concerned about our attempt to do this, even with cars, because people don't always follow the rules, and what Mike said is very concerned. And I'm also not liking the whole bathroom situation. So I think one way to possibly work this out so you minimize the problem is to really pare down those warrant articles to the most essential. So we don't need to, if we're only going to be there for a half hour, 40 minutes doing a few articles, that really lowers the number of people who are going to bathrooms and addresses Mike's point of view. And, I really think I would love to hear from the health boards and things like that, what they think of our town doing this. Because it doesn't just affect our town, it affects, if we raise the rate of COVID in our town, it's going to be affecting all the other South Shore towns. The more people in Cohasset get COVID, the more people in the whole South Shore.
So I will say that we have been consulting with Pam Fahey, the health agent, and Mary Goodwin, the health nurse, public health nurse, have been engaged in all these conversations. And Pam has been very supportive of this approach and had a lot of concerns about trying to go into the gym. And I'd say that was probably the biggest driver to this, was to try to minimize the health impacts. And again, there's nothing we could do to eliminate them absent, going fully online. So this really was the best effort to minimize health risks. And again, so Pam and Mary have been at the table for this conversation.
Mike?
Chris, I certainly will attend virtually the select board meeting on Tuesday, but my status is simply as an observer. Normally, I can ask a question through the Zoom question tool, but I cannot speak. How can I have a chance to raise my concern with the select board? And Rob, you may well have missed my point, which is, why can we not delay this town meeting a week or even two to allow the infection rates to trend downward further and eliminate, I won't say eliminate, but reduce the risk further downward? We no longer have to have the FEMA question answered by the 16th or 19th. We have until the 30th to approve our budget. That was the
Mike,
point.
if you're explaining your point to me, I get it. So in order to keep
But my question,
in order to keep the meeting moving a little bit, I understand what you have to say. If this comes around to something for us to vote on as a board, I'll either weigh in or vote. Thank you.
okay, just want to make sure you heard it. But Chris, is there
I did,
anything you can
thank you.
do to have either this board or myself added as someone who can ask a live question?
Yeah, I would say, by the way, if the board if the advisory committee wants to formally be active in that, I'll just Helene or whoever could just send an email to Kevin. I'll tell Kevin too and say, look, they'd like to be an active participant in the conversation at that meeting. That's easy. And if it's just, even if it's just you, feel free to, again, send an email to Kevin, copying myself and Tracy.
Okay, that's fine. I'll do that.
Yeah, so, so Kevin will absolutely read it and look at it, and I'm sure he'll,
Thank you.
okay.
And Mike, if you do go, unless we have a discussion about our position as the advisory, it's your position as an advisory member, but not speaking on top of the board. Even though
I agree completely.
yeah, even though many of us agree with you, we'd have to discuss.
No, I'm not looking for the advisory board to attend this meeting.
Yes.
I'm going to attend as a resident, but I'm hoping that I have a certain amount of credibility to be able to speak live. So, thank you. I will certainly represent myself as a resident.
Is there anything else on town meetings you want to touch base on, Helene or anyone else?
Anybody else have any more questions to Chris? Guys, this is a really challenging time. Mike brought up a lot of health questions. I've done my research, but these people are not familiar with the town. They haven't seen the site. And we have a Board of Health person. I mean, we have a health agent, excuse me, the health agent, and she's giving us feedback. I mean, she has a lot more experience than I do when it comes to making decisions about this. And I did forward Chris, when he was considering the gymnasium, some really major research on aerosol. And the gymnasium was no way, Jose. That would have been really a problem. You just need people sneezing or talking loud, and that goes well beyond 6 feet. And when we do meet, if we do meet, even in this location, we have to be careful that certain things go beyond 6 feet. Does anybody have a question about that? Okay, so continue, Chris.
So the next topic is the town election. So everyone should have gotten a mailing. There was an absentee ballot application sent to every registered voter in town. Carol wanted to do that because there's also an electronic form that people can fill out, print out, and sign and send in. And by the way, you can also get the form at home. You can sign it, take a picture of it, and email it in as a PDF. That's okay too, as long as there's a signature on the form. She's gotten absentee ballot applications I believe. I didn't get a count from her today, but she was in all weekend. And I think she said it's 9 days straight, which she said people in the office, including the weekends, because between that and between all facility stickers, everything's coming in. Because there's so many documents. Some people are scanning it, but many people are not. So there's been, I think, a fairly good response on absentee ballot requests and early voting requests. So that continues. So if people, everyone should have gotten it at home. If you want another copy, you can call the office, or you can go onto the town's website, and on the town clerk website, you can get the form.
I've had residents ask a couple of questions about that. And is there a drop-off box in front of town hall, or do they have to mail it?
No, you can also drop it in the silver box. You don't have to mail it. You can just drop it in the silver box in front of town hall. That's fine.
If they mail it, it says first class. Do they need 2 stamps or 1? Because it's fairly large.
I think it's just 1.
Okay.
I'm talking about the ballot application. I'm talking about the ballot itself. You talking about the ballot itself, Helene? Or
you're supposed to put the ballot in an envelope, and then that came with it, and then mail it.
Yeah, I have to. I think that does have to be mailed, Helene. I think the ballot itself has to be postmarked. I think it has to be a validated postmark that was sent by the date. I believe I will check with Carol about that, but I believe.
Get back to me so I could tell residents who are calling me up and asking me about that.
Because I know that the absentee ballot application is different. That can be, photos, scanned, whatever, as long as there's a signature on it. Carol can get it in multiple forms. The ballot, I think, has to be processed through the mail to have a stamp postmark on it, just to validate.
But it could also be dropped off in the box that you said in front.
Yeah, let me take that back. I thought you were talking about the applications, not the ballots.
No, I'm talking about the actual ballot. I don't think it can, according to the rules that I read on the ballot.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it has to go through the mail. I think 1 stamp is sufficient, by the way. I think 1 first class stamp is sufficient. But I will double check that. But I believe that still has to go through the post office, which we hope will still be in service in the winter, by the way, in the fall. So I think so. And again, people can still vote in person if they want to. The hours are the same. It's 8 to 6. A lot of towns have shrunken the hours, but it was a conscious decision to keep as many hours as possible, allow people to distance out over the day, and the polling little stations are spread out. And there's a change in the pattern, so people have to cross back over each other to come in and out. And there's going to be screens between the poll signer in it, the election workers, and the people voting. So there's a whole lot of extra precautions being made for the in-person voting. So that'll still be available. If everyone wants to come in and vote in person, they can on the 27th. I believe the hours are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the town auditorium and the town hall. But that said, people can most certainly early vote by mail. So if anyone has, again, any questions about that, the clerk is happy to assist. So.
You can drop it off too, according to the instructions.
Okay. Well, the ballot application you can. I don't know if the ballot you can.
No. These are the ballot instructions that I got. So you can mail the ballot in, or you can drop it off, and it says, if your ballot is hand delivered, your local election official cannot accept the ballot from anyone but you.
So you may have to physically tell the clerk to come in and drop it, and she can accept that. I would let me get Carol's instructions on that.
Cool.
Because that's an excellent question. So I know there is an inbox right in the lobby, and I will see what how she's handling that.
Before we moved on, I have a question since Mike is plans to attend the meeting by Zoom for the Board of Selectmen. Do you all want to hear what he has to say and have a meeting of us on that next Thursday to go over this for one final round? Any comments about that?
I'm going to the select board meeting on Tuesday.
I know, but we could have
Okay.
a meeting on
So
Thursday.
what would the meeting Thursday be?
Well, the meeting Thursday would be then to get your feedback from attending that meeting,
Oh, I see.
for further clarification of some of the concerns that we as a board have addressed, that Tom and you and other people have addressed. Do you think that would be useful or not necessary? And I'm asking all of you.
Not necessary.
Not necessary, Lee?
That's
How about
correct.
you, Fran?
No, not necessarily. You can watch the selectmen's meeting or attend it yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. And you don't think we need to give any more impact because it's going to happen no matter what anyway at this point?
Correct.
Is that correct, Chris? It's going to happen no matter whatever we say at this point.
What the town meeting? No. Again, that's going to be, at this point, it's in the hands of the moderator. So again, if there's a significant concern, look, if the next 2 weeks, I mean, by the way, all the case trends and messages are going really well, including here. That said, if things go bad in the next 2 weeks, obviously Dan can make a different call on it.
So the
That's
Board
why.
of Selectmen really next week on Tuesday don't have much input on it except for maybe safety concerns for the actual meeting.
Yeah, I mean, they've approved by approving the warrant and setting that they reset the location, they reset the time for 6 o'clock, and they're setting the warrant. So that at this point, once they did that, the direct authority over whether or not to have that meeting is in the hands of the moderator. That's the way the law works.
Got it.
That said, they still need to be consulted on a variety of topics between now and then if there's things to change, and they're going to be posted a meeting on the 16th, just like you folks are.
And is it inappropriate for some people who might in this board be concerned incredibly so about the health for them to contact the moderator, or is that inappropriate?
No, it's not inappropriate. I mean, I think as citizens, you have the absolute right to do that. And if the board takes a position, I mean, by the way, Dan is absolutely aware of the health issues here. I mean, I'm not going to speak for him, but I will speak having spoken to him, and he's absolutely completely aware of that. I mean, his entire firm has gone virtual. He's in town. He's absolutely, he's most certainly paying attention to his health. His health and safety is right up top.
Right. Okay.
I mean, clearly, Helene, talking to him is fine.
Yes, I just want to emphasize that each one of you, including Mary and John, who are not here, John, I could always call him and talk to him, and Mary had something urgent that came up, or otherwise she'd be here. That if you have concerns of a very serious nature, like Mike has mentioned, then the person to hear it is really the moderator. If the moderator is the power behind whether we have it or not. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
All right.
Okay, if there's nothing else on either of these topics, we have Don here, who's been like hiding out there on the side, and who's ready to talk to us about where we stand right now fiscally, and that's actually fairly good news right now, and to talk a little bit about the COVID CARES Fund and where we're going with that.
Yeah, good evening. I'll start with the budget. On the revenue side, we're actually looking really good. As of today, we're looking at almost 98% of total general fund budget received. Real estate tax, we're at 96.7. We're a little bit ahead of that based on discussions with Paula yesterday. I just haven't had those turnovers posted. So I actually think it's going to be a little bit better than 96.7 at this point. And as everybody knows, the due date was pushed to June 1st. So a couple of days in, already being at 97% is really good. Motor vehicle excise, we're ahead of budget. We've got about $131,000 surplus so far. Again, we still got a full month to collect. And then we got a number of other revenue sources that are doing well. I'm thinking that by the end of the year, we'll be in line with the budget and hopefully have a small surplus, maybe not like we have in the past few years, but we're definitely looking like we're going to be in good shape on the revenue side. On the expenditure side, we're doing even better. Partly due to COVID, we've had to do essentially a spending freeze for non-essential expenditures. One good thing that has happened, which we kind of planned for over the last few years, is building in a surplus in the health budget, our health insurance. We just paid our 12th month, and it's looking like we're going to have about a $500,000 surplus there, which is great news. Again, I've mentioned this in prior meetings, snow and ice. Usually we're in a deficit position by this point due to a warm winter. We actually have a surplus right now. And as you know, usually reserve fund transfers cover those deficits. So we're still sitting with the 134 grand that remains in the reserve fund. And then as Chris alluded to, the CARES Act and the grant, the $100,000 that you folks approved for the COVID expenditures looks like will be covered between the CARES money and FEMA. So that's going to free up that $100,000 as well. So overall, good news, I think, on the revenue and expenditure side going into the last month of the year. And we'll continue to watch and kind of see where we're at. But I think overall, we'll be ending the year in a good position. Any questions on that before I jump into CARES and this federal grant money?
No questions.
Questions? Okay, no questions. You can jump in.
All right, so CARES Act. The federal government has provided the state of Massachusetts $2.6 billion. And now based on population, that money gets trickled down to the communities. Of that $2.6 billion, the state will keep 55%. And then that leaves 45%, again, based on population, to be distributed to cities and towns based on that population. Right now, the state has approved 25% distribution of the towns, all towns in Massachusetts, eligible distribution. So right now, we just submitted a grant application for $750,000 to cover COVID costs that we've incurred to date. And then also, we basically applied for the full amount. What the state allows you to do is also use funding for cash flow purposes. So we applied for the full amount, and the money carries over to fiscal 21. So anything not spent or reclassed for FY20 purposes, we can use in FY21 for unanticipated expenses. Part of the reason that I understand the state has not provided the full 45 is in the event that the federal government allows this money to be used for revenue shortfalls. As you guys know, we've had to make some revenue cuts and estimates based on reducing local receipts and state aid. right now, COVID does not allow you to use this money to offset revenue loss. But it does sound, based on Sean Cronin at the state and other officials there, that may be going through the federal level to change that legislation to allow it to be used for revenue loss. So it's not set in stone, obviously. We know how long it takes for things just to go to the state level. But if that does happen, that additional 20%, which is about 600,000 that we're eligible in addition to the 750, could potentially be used for any revenue loss or any further COVID-related expenses. Really, a lot of things fall under this COVID bucket. Anything that we're spending because of COVID, doing this proposed town hall, annual town meeting at the music circus, all those extra expenses are valid grant expenses. Retrofitting town buildings to make sure that we have fiberglass, to have dividers, PPE, continuing with our face masks and sanitizing. Anything really related that was not budgeted as of March 27th of this year through December 30th or 20th of 2020, all of those COVID-related expenses can be charged to this grant. So it's really given the town flexibility. Since we're not prepared for this, we did not budget for this, and this is it's good news, and it'll just be a little bit of pulling out a little bit of the little hair I got left trying to put these grant reports together as we go through. Once we're allocated the money, there is a bi-monthly report that we have to do to the state. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But overall, this is great news. I submitted the application today for our first distribution of 750, and they'll be distributing that on a rolling basis. What does that mean? I don't know. So we could get it in a week, we could get it in a few weeks, but either way, it's good. Don't really have anything else to say, really.
Any questions? Mike? Mike, Rob, and then Meg. Okay.
Yep. Don, are changes that we need to make in our infrastructure, whether it's, you mentioned plexiglass shields in town hall, but I'm thinking also of the schools, and if social distancing is a requirement come fall, and we need to spend additional money for whatever the school needs to maintain social distancing. Are those eligible for these federal funds?
Yes, they are.
And then how you mentioned 5 months into the future. How does that apply to, say, these kinds of modifications and adjustments? Do we have to get them done within a certain time frame, or is there an end date?
The expenses need to be incurred between March 1st of 2020 and December 20th of 2020. So as long as we've done the work and the expenses been incurred at that point, that money can be used for these purposes.
Okay, so a question for Chris, and that is, how are we going to communicate that to the school administration and the town side departments?
So we have a daily call with our leadership team, and twice a week it includes a broader group, including the school leadership team. So they are well aware, and Don, I think, has already had side conversations with Mike McMillan, the business administrator. So believe me, they are well aware of the availability of this money, and they're still waiting for clear direction from the state as to what they're going to need to do, because that has not come out yet. I believe they've also received some separate money. Don, wasn't there some separate money for schools, I think, as well?
Yep. So CARES is like a multi-armed grant. Our auditors are trying to come up with a little matrix of all the different types of CARES money. We've got money from the Board of Health directly, about $7 grand. The school got $60,000 for COVID-related expenses, and then the town received, like I just said, this distribution, and they're all supposed to be used in conjunction with each other. So, yes, to answer your question, they directly will have about $60,000 for FY21 to spend on COVID-related needs.
And we're going to coordinate with them too, Mike, to make sure that if there's shields or masks or whatever kind of PPE have to be done. That's a priority. We need to make sure the kids can get to school and teachers can be safe and staff can be safe.
Another question on CSCR, who have students in their building.
Mike,
Yeah.
that's your fourth question. There were other people in queue. So
Yes,
I'm
excuse
sorry,
to your
Yeah.
earlier
I didn't
comment.
see other hands raised. My apologies.
That
Yeah.
said, I'm going to defer my question to Meg, who is next, because I'm guessing she's going to ask the same question, only she's going to ask it better. So, Meg.
No, I actually don't think that's true. And now I feel a lot of pressure. I was actually just going to clarify that the additional amount was 600,000 for the minutes. I'm sorry to let you down, Rob.
Yes, a little over $602,000.
Thank you, Don. I defer back to Rob to ask the good question that I should have asked.
Rob, you want to ask the question? Rob?
Oh, he froze. Are you back, Rob?
He's frozen.
It's not a kill. I mean, this sounds like a municipal PPP loan. Yes, no? Am I not here?
No,
You're back.
You're back.
Okay, I'm sorry, we're having a very bad Wi-Fi night here. This sounds like a municipal PPP loan, so I just assume that these reports that you're referring to are the same sort of things that private companies have to do to just allocate the money to appropriate expenses, and then it all washes out.
I'm not sure what a PPP loan is.
You don't want to know.
So really, the guidance is similar to FEMA, the categories that you can spend for FEMA, but expanded a little bit. So
Okay.
basically what we'll have to do as we spend, we'll have to just submit these bi-monthly reports and just document the hell out of everything we're spending and report it based on these different categories that they have. Some are direct support, overtime, sanitizing and cleaning buildings, signage and communication, meals to seniors. There's a bunch of different categories that they lay out in their guidance that we'll have to report based on those categories.
I'm confident that you guys will keep the right receipts in the right shoe boxes, and we'll be clean and approved.
Oh yeah, I already got a solid
Thanks.
schedule going.
thank you for your comments. Mike?
I'm not sure if this is for Don or Chris, but is CSCR eligible for any of these CARES funds? They are running programs for 1 or 2 students in the mornings.
It's not directly a part of our municipality. I don't really see that. I could find out, but I'd have to look into that, Mike.
You don't
If
have
there-
to. I was just wondering if you had heard. I'll just relay the word to Jack Buckley
All right.
and let
If
him
there-
work it out with you guys.
Yeah, if they're doing something with the schools, Mike, where they're actually doing a school program, there might be some link because they're not doing anything. I mean, we partner with them on a lot of things, but not. But if there's some kind of link with schools and education, and
Yeah.
then I think they should work through the schools on that, and then just to keep that clean. So.
Okay, I'll give him a call. I'll let him
All right.
take it. Thanks.
Other questions for Don? Okay. Thank you, Don.
And just before Don escapes, I just want to congratulate him again. He and his wife are the proud parents of Abigail, who was born last Monday.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mazel tov.
As if you weren't getting little enough sleep with all this stuff
I
from
know.
work. Congratulations.
Thank
Don, is that your first?
It is.
Oh,
Wow.
man.
And what's your
Congratulations.
child's name?
Abigail Louise.
Oh,
Oh,
beautiful.
wow.
Abby.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
I speak probably on behalf of everyone. Best of health to Abby.
Thank you.
Okay.
Congratulations. So that's good. It's good news. Good news.
Yeah, totally. So now you could go home to Abby.
You just turn off his Zoom and just be home.
Yes,
That's the
totally.
great. I used to have the short commute. Now Donna's the shortest. Just pushes the turns it on.
I know. That's really cool. Fun little girl. Okay, so our next order of business is the minutes. Meg,
I think Lee might
Lee
have
had a question.
Oh, yes, I didn't see you.
I have a
Lee.
question for Chris.
Okay.
This is concerning the dump and the people, the police down there. You think it's still necessary to have a
So
police down there?
So Lee, I'm hoping that sometime next week we're going to do two things. Put in a new point of sale system that's totally touch, that we won't have to touch anything. So we'll be able to start hopefully selling bags again at the RTF, C&D and metals and stuff like that. So we're hoping that will happen. And at the same time, we're hoping to eliminate the details. We're hoping to do all of that and revert to a little bit more traditional. People have kind of learned the system and understand how to do it. So I'm hoping next week. So
People are catching on how it works, and I think everybody's wearing their mask. I think, $415 a day for have a detail. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
well, the good news is that it's COVID related, so we can charge it back.
I
So
was just gonna make that comment. So I agree, it's great that everybody's starting to learn how to go through the RTF correctly and safely, but the expenses we have incurred for those details can be charged against this grant.
Yeah, but it all comes from federal taxes, state taxes, and local taxes. Come on, we're all paying for it.
that's yeah. Well, it's coming out of someone else's budget though, so that's good news. So Lee, I'm hoping that by next week we're gonna be able to turn the corner, and they've been working really hard.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks.
Good question.
Okay. Chris, are they gonna include glass, like glass bottles back?
Well, you could take those now. That we are taking recyclables. I think what we're also working on is whether or not the scouts are ready to resume
Oh, yeah.
the recycles, and we're not sure. We're working with them too. So
Okay.
we are taking glass. We're just not recycling it. The bottle deposits aren't being taken.
Okay. We could do the minutes and then we can end with any unexpected topics or something like that. So the minutes.
So I guess one thing, and I had emailed Mary and Tom, I think you were on this too right before. I think we've already approved the 5:13 minutes, because when I was going back through, I swear I saw minutes that said we approved them, but then literally 10 minutes later when I went to add those to the email, I could not find them. So I don't know if, Tom, you have any, I don't know who took the minutes after 5:13, or if we should just reapprove them. Whatever's easier, but
Well, what's on the agenda is minutes from 5:13.
no, I know, but I don't know why, because I think we've already approved them.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if we have record of approving them.
I swear I saw it earlier tonight, but now for the life of me, I can't find it. So, Tom, did you take the minutes for what was our next meeting? 5:18?
521.
Did you take those minutes or did Mary take them? I didn't take them.
I took the minutes and have circulated them, and there was no vote on the minutes that I'm aware of. It's possible it occurred before I arrived. I arrived about 10 minutes late.
No, you're fine. I'm just, okay, so then maybe I'm just actually losing my mind. Okay.
I don't think you are losing your mind, but it doesn't hurt to take an approval.
Reapprove.
Yes, exactly. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes of
So
May?
I'll move to approve the minutes from May 13th.
Okay, second by Lee. All in favor, Helene Lee, aye. Fran?
Fran Collins, aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Tom?
Tom Baker, aye.
Meg?
Meg Wheeler, aye.
Mike?
Mike Dick, aye.
Rob?
Rob Hillman, aye.
Thank you. They're approved. And now the last bit is any
Oh,
topics. What?
Are the 521 minutes up for approval as well?
Didn't we approve those? I thought we did those.
I don't think we've had a meeting.
We haven't had one since.
We haven't had a meeting since 5:21.
Yes, yes, so I read those too. So definitely, that's unanticipated, but we could do that. So there's a motion to approve the minutes of May 21st, correct? 2020.
So Tom, are you making that motion?
I didn't make the motion.
No, I said, is there a motion? Is there a motion?
Okay.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion.
Okay, and
Second.
a second. Fran, your second?
Yep, second.
So all in favor, Helene Lee, aye?
Fran Collins, aye.
Lee? Lee?
I think he
I'm
froze.
frozen.
Okay, Meg?
Circle back. Meg Wheeler, aye.
Mike,
Mike Dick, aye.
Tom,
Tom Baker, aye.
Rob,
Rob Hillman, aye.
Lee, he's moving. Lee? Oh, hi, Lee. Do you approve the minutes of, that's May 20th? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So we're done. And then is there any other ones?
Well, I have a question.
What?
Maybe I'm not being put on the emails, but did we get the agenda for tonight? Because I had to go digging for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did. Okay, so I'm just wondering if maybe I missed that.
It was embedded in the agenda for tonight. No, it had the Zoom on it.
You know what? I see it now. Okay.
All right. I missed it as well, but that's just for now.
I think I got confused because, oh, here are the minutes for May 21st. Okay. I knew I saw this.
Oh, is that May 21st? I kept saying May 20th.
Oh, and here it says approval of minutes from May 13th. I am not crazy.
Oh, did we add that?
Yes.
Oh,
But was the
Okay.
motion to approve minutes from May 20th or 21st?
No,
May
these are the minutes from May 21st that Tom circulated earlier today. They say in those minutes we approved May 13th. So I knew I saw it somewhere.
Okay. Now
Casey's
we have
making me feel better.
and we approved the minutes of May 21st?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're good now.
We're good. And now that those minutes need to go to the office, do you know that?
I had actually already sent 513 in because I thought they were approved. So I'm glad
You could send yours in, and Meg has sent her. I mean,
and also and these tonight I will send out so that we can approve them next time.
right. Okay. Okay, we're all set. Any comments or anything unexpected? Any topic
I
unexpected?
just have one little thing to bring up. So as we were wrapping the warrant last week, Don reminded me that after I checked back with him to realize I had forgotten, back in November, the Board of Selectmen advanced. If you remember, we had the sewer plant. We had approved the sewer plant first phase of the replacement, and we could do the second phase at town meeting. Because of the failure, there was an advance. The sewer commission voted to declare an emergency and advance the purchase. Voted to do the same. What we do have to do now is actually finally approve the funding. So while we talked about a lot of things, had forgotten to plug that back in. So the selectmen have voted for it, and the sewer commission's voted for it. And again, it's not on your agenda tonight. So if you feel comfortable supporting it, that's great. If you don't, I can understand, and we can try to do a meeting between now and town meeting. But the work is in progress. The parts have been ordered. It just, if you remember back in November, at special town meeting, the first phase was approved for $700,000. And then the system failed the following week, and we had to accelerate the whole process. So the second phase was pre-ordered, so we could actually procure them right then. And actually, I think I don't know if they've been delivered, but they should be delivered fairly soon. The first phase is in, thank God, so the plant's functional again, smooth. But we do have to get final approval from town meeting to move the money out of the reserve fund. So it's going to be.
You're asking us to do to make a motion to get the money out of the reserve
Yeah,
fund.
to support the transfer of $400,000 from the sewer capital stabilization, Don, I think is where it's coming from, right?
Correct.
To pay for the second phase of the sewer plant upgrades,
And how much does the second phase cost?
$400,000.
And just so you know, the second side of the membranes has been installed.
Okay.
Okay, so you're a step ahead of me. So the work's now all done. So we have to now make sure that we have the final payment to pay it. So.
Okay, is there any questions about that? Okay, no questions. Is there a motion on the floor?
Excuse me, I didn't get my mute unmuted.
Oh, okay.
We don't have anything on our agenda tonight for this.
But it
I'm
falls,
not sure what we're talking about. I have a memory of last fall's 700,000, but I'm not comfortable with a verbal description and no discussion.
well, it's allowed to be talked about, Mike, because we have an item called topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours in advance, if they're urgent. And it sounds like this, the money needs to go where it needs.
So just to address Mike's point, I'm raising it so it's on your radar screen.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, you could, I understand if, it wasn't on the agenda for tonight. So if you're going to meet between now and the 16th, or even on the night of the 16th, you could take it up that night and I can get you any information you need. I'm just
So
explaining.
what is it that you need? What are you asking us to vote on?
So the capital plan is going to include another, we have to add another line in there just to for the $400,000 transfer from the sewer capital
The
stabilization.
transfer based on something approved at fall town meeting?
Well, it's the second phase. What happened?
I'll explain a little bit more.
Go ahead.
So at special town meeting, we approved $700,000 to, at that time, do one side or one train, as they call them, of the sewer membranes in the sewer plant.
Sewer membranes, okay.
Yes. So subsequently, I think 2 days later, a day later, the other side failed, which needed us to expedite the purchase of the second side so that we could try to get these ordered because of the lead time on them.
Yep.
If you remember, the Board of Selectmen had to declare a public health emergency due to this, which allowed me to write a letter to the state to get state approval for an emergency appropriation. So we got the approval from the state, from the selectmen, for the additional 400 so we could do the entire project. And then by the end of the fiscal year, what's required is a funding source, which we already had available. We just didn't vote at special town meeting for the full 1.1 that two sides would have cost. So this is really just, we have an emergency appropriation, we're spending the money. We just need formally town meeting to fund this transfer because it requires 2/3 vote from town meeting to move the money from the sewer capital stabilization fund into their capital project account.
Okay. So the fall town meeting, if you hadn't known those membranes were going to fail or if they had just failed, would have been 1.1.
Exactly.
And the 400,000 you're telling us came from the state anyway. It's not coming out of any of our pockets.
So the
Or is it a
state
loan?
is coming from, it allows you to overspend an appropriation. So it gives you, because we have, you would either at the end of the year have to borrow for it, but it was an easy sell for them because we already had the money sitting for this project. We were just doing it one train at a time. So it just kind of happened that the second side failed and we should have just had the 1.1 from the get-go, but it just didn't work out that way.
Okay, so the 400,000 from the state was basically in advance.
Essentially, they allowed us to overspend. They didn't give us any money.
Okay.
We approved 700. The cost was going to be anywhere from 950, I think, to 1.1. They gave us the approval to be able to spend the full amount, go into a deficit in that account. But you can't have a deficit in these accounts at year end. So, like I said, the two things that you would either do is borrow for it or raise it or transfer from available funds. The available funding is the sewer capital stabilization.
Right, right.
And again, starting back in November, they had the full 1.1 available at that time. But based on how they were kind of going through it, they were just doing one side at a time for whatever reason. I don't understand why it went that way. It did. We have the money. This is really just more of a housekeeping. But unfortunately, stabilization funds require 2/3 vote at town meeting.
Okay.
I hope I didn't confuse
I have another question, but I'll defer to anyone else who has a question.
Mike?
Okay. So is this a vote that you need at annual town meeting in June?
Yes.
So is it on the warrant?
Yeah, it is now. Yes. It's
Got
been a vote. So
Okay.
there's no, so it's going to go in front of the voters, but we need to have and the selectmen back in the fall already voted to do this, and so did the sewer commission. And it just, apologies, it kind of slipped that it was supposed to go back. And as we were going through at the end, we realized that this was missing. And
I see. Okay.
so,
Okay.
and again, if you're not comfortable, I can understand if you're not comfortable.
No, you've explained it fully.
Okay.
You've answered
Well,
all
are
my
you,
questions.
are you comfortable, Mike, now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, is there a motion for this to approve the transfer, I believe, of the 400,000, right? Can you word it,
I
Don?
make a motion, we transfer 40,000.
The money is being transferred from what to what? I know it's going into the sewer capital stabilization, but where is it now?
The money will be transferred from the sewer capital stabilization fund and
Okay.
transferred into the wastewater treatment plant upgrades account voted at November special town meeting. Or something along those lines. But that-
Okay, and who's writing down that on the minutes? Okay, so would somebody make that motion?
I make the motion.
Okay, what Don said. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Helene Lieb, aye.
Ed Collins, aye.
Meg?
Meg Wheeler, aye.
Tom?
Tom Baker, aye.
Lee? Lee? We'll get back to,
Jenkins.
oh yeah, good. Mike?
Mike Dick, aye.
Rob?
Rob Hillman, aye.
Okay, so it passed.